Good afternoon or good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar on optimizing export with process recipes. Bit of a mouthful of a title, but I promise you today it's going to be a good one. So anybody who has processing tasks to do, which is probably all of us, I would think, should find some extremely valuable time-saving tips today. If this is your first webinar and you don't know who you're listening to, my name is David, rather. I'm part of the software sales team based out of Copenhagen in Denmark. And as usual, we have 60 minutes today. We probably won't need all of that, might be done and dusted in 45 minutes. You're very welcome and encouraged as well to ask questions throughout. The way you do that is via text. So at the bottom of your GoToWebinar control panel, put a question in there and that will come straight through to me. If you're on your iOS device or Android device, tap the question mark icon and you can ask a question in a similar way. Try to keep your questions on topic, not really for my benefit, just but for everybody else listening in as well. So let us begin. I'm just going to switch over to Capture One, which you should be able to see on screen. Today I'm using a session. That's not to say any of this isn't relevant for a catalog. It is just as relevant for a catalog. But those of you with more heavier processing intensive tasks tend to be working in a session. So to explain how this particular session is set up, you can see Capture One here and the Finder with the actual session below. So it's essentially, if you like, an e-commerce sort of style session. So it's a shoot with 5 different outfits. So if I scroll down the various different outfits you can see. So outfit 1 to 5, which is the folders here in the capture folder, outfits 1 to 5. And then each outfit also has some color tagging going on that you can see. So green is the front view, blue is our fabric detail, and then red is the view from behind. So that's the same for each outfit. So green for front, blue for fabric, red from the view behind, like so. So because of that color tagging, it also means that we can do some smart album filtering. So up here I've made some smart albums that just allow us to see various different collections. So for example, we can see all the fabric details, which is basically everything in the session which has a blue color tag. We can see all the front shots from all the outfits. So you can see the outfit changing, which is essentially everything in the session with a green filter. Then we've got all the rear shots, which is everything with the red. Then we've got the final front shot. So these are our chosen fronts, which is a green tag and a star rating and a 5-star rating. So all the final rears, which is red tag and a 5-star rating. The final fabric details, which is the blue color tag and a 5-star rating. And all the final images, which is basically everything that had 5 stars. So just thought I'd better explain all of that so you know exactly how the session is set up. If you don't know how these work, then these are basically smart albums. And a smart album populates itself based on certain criteria. So if we just check out final fronts, let's right click that and say edit. And you'll see that this smart album, the color tag is green and the rating must equal 5 stars. So that's why it's populated with green and 5-star images only. Alrighty, so with that in mind, let's talk about processing. Just going to go to all the finals for a second. And we're going to spend most of our time in this area, which is the Output Tool tab. So second to last, where we can define process recipes. And a process recipe is really just a way of defining how you want to go from your images in Capture One to your exports. So in this case, raw Canon files, CR2s, to final TIFF JPEGs, and so on. Now, the kind of super basic way to do it is to simply select images and say File, Export, Variants, and then choose in here whether you want TIFF, JPEG, and so on, and then make your export. However, that's the kind of inefficient way to do it, because if you want to open up sorry, if you want to do various different saving of formats, sometimes JPEG, sometimes TIFF, then that simply means you have to kind of keep changing the parameters in that window every time you enter it. So that's pretty inefficient. So the whole purpose of using a process recipe is to get some consistency with your exporting and also some speed, because we don't have to keep defining the same setup. So how do we make a process recipe? Very simple. In the process recipe tools, we click a plus and then we can make a new recipe. So just to give you an example, let's just open up one image. For example, let's say we want to make we'll make this one again. Let's say we want to make a process recipe, which is a JPEG, and it's going to be for my website, and I know the best dimensions for my website is 1350 pixels by 712, or for our e-commerce website, that's what the size of each thumbnail is, for example. So I want to make it like this, like so. So all I've done now is give a title for my process recipe. So what I need to do is then go to the next tool and define that. So I'm going to say JPEG, and we're going to have sRGB, it's going on the web. And the scale, we're going to put in here dimensions. And we're going to change this to pixels. Notice we've got other options here, millimeters, centimeters, and so on. But for the website, it makes sense to have pixels. And then I'm going to put in 1350 by 712, like so. So that simply created the basic stuff for my process recipe. And I have, in the case of JPEG here, I have a quality slider. And before we get into the whole processing bits and pieces, I'm going to show you two tips that might help you when you're making process recipes, and then we get on to the whole processing side of things. So the first thing is, I've said in this recipe I want my output to be this exact pixel dimensions. Now if I grab my crop tool, by default the crop will behave like this. It's unconstrained. I can move it around anywhere, of course. Let's just expand Capture One for a second. I can move it around anywhere like so, and you can see the pixel dimensions changing like so. But I can watch them and I can try and make it exactly fit 1350 pixels like that, but it's not very fast to do. So a nice little tip, the first thing I'm going to show you is that in the crop tool, we can set this to the currently selected output recipe. So if I say output like so, and now grab this, then you see it locks to 1712 by 1350, like so. So whatever I change it, whoops, let's just reset my rotation. Whatever I change it, you see it's locked to 1350 by 712. So that's a really useful little thing to know about. The second useful thing to know about is, whoops, let's get rid of that. The next handy thing to know about is that when we think about JPEG quality, I've got no idea how this is going to look when it's exported. If I zoom to 100%, whoops, let's just change back to my hand tool. If we zoom to 100%, for example, like so, then we're looking at the full raw file. So I've got no idea how it's going to look when I export. But something we added in version 10 was the ability to proof a recipe with this spectacles icon here. So now if I'm viewing at 100%, as you can see, and I click on my spectacle icon, Capture One will now proof down to the exact parameters of the process recipe. So we've got 1350 by 712. So what I'm seeing on screen is 1350 by 712. So now I can adjust my JPEG quality and really see how that's exactly going to affect the image. Let's just add in the process summary tool. And we can also see if I change the slider, we can also see the size changing. Obviously on a website, the lower the file size, the quicker it's going to load. So I can really fine tune it to get the best compromise between quality and output. So good little tick if you didn't know that, recipe proofing. So it proofs the JPEG compression, the size, the color profile, and also in the adjustments tab, we can add a little bit more output sharpening if we wish, because I know that if we make an image smaller or larger, it makes it softer. So we can add some additional sharpening as well, for example. So if you didn't know that, that's a good thing to be aware of. All right, so with that in mind, let's just fix this little mistake I made down here, and then we can get started. So the next thing I want to let's turn recipe proofing off. The next thing that I want to introduce you to is, just going to hide my thumbnails for a second. Okay, the next thing that I want to introduce you to is the concept of tokens in Capture One. And the token you'll find everywhere. You will find them in the import dialog, you will find them in naming conventions, you will find them all over the place. And a token is essentially a identifier which will extract some kind of metadata from the image and use that in a clever way, like making a folder. So when I say metadata in the image, it could be something basic like the color tag, it could be the star rating, it could be some kind of metadata in the image like the copyright information or something like that. So there could be all various different ways that we can use a token, and I'm going to run through some very simple examples and some more complex and more powerful examples as well. So the first thing I'm going to show you, let's make a new recipe, and I'm going to call this, we'll deactivate that one, I'm going to call this color tag, like so. And we'll introduce you to the first tab, or rather the second tab of the process recipe. I'm just going to change this to JPEG Quick Proof so it happens nice and fast. And we're going to make Capture One a bit smaller so we can see what goes on in the Finder at the same time. So let's look at our output folder. So in the, we can get rid of process summary, like so. So in the, I'm going to get rid of that so we can see all these tools because these are the important ones. If it's going to let me, 1, 2, 3, need to make this just a little bit bigger. There we go. All right, so the File tab, by default, if we change nothing in a Capture One session, then whenever we output or process something, it goes to the output folder by default if we don't change anything. So you see here in the File tab, we have root folder. More on this later. It says, hey, Capture One, go and look at the output location. So we have a look at the output location, and the destination says output. So, which is the output folder here. If you want to confirm any of that, you can just click on the arrow, and then it will open up the Finder window and show you exactly where your outputs are going to go. But what we can do is exercise a bit of subfolder control using tokens. So if you remember, the collection of images we're looking at here is all the finals. We've got our greens, our blues, and reds, like so. So I might like to sort those automatically into their various different folders based on their color tag. So we can do something really simple. Remember, this process recipe is called color tag. So in the subfolder here, I'm going to go to click this box. This opens up our subfolder tokens, and there's around 60 or so different tokens here. Most of these you will never use, but trust me, somebody somewhere in a far-flung corner of the world is using every single one of these at some point. So they're all there for a reason. So I'm just going to show you some examples. Now we can sort them by groups. So let's just look at basic metadata. We've also got date and time, we've got vendor specific stuff, camera things, IPTC stuff, and so on. But let's go to basic metadata and look to see that we've got color tag. So if I pick this up and drag and drop and say OK, then our subfolder is now color tag, like so. So essentially what's going to happen, I'm going to select all of these and we're going to say process. Now we can do a shortcut, which is Command D. We can also say file process down here, or if you right click and customize your toolbar, you can add this handy little process icon here as well. So let's process all of these and see what happens. It starts processing. Now we can see in our output folder, we've got all our blue shots, all our green shots, and all our red shots, like so. So pretty simple stuff, but can be very, very useful. So that's just to introduce you to the concept that the token color tag pulls some kind of data out of the image and uses that in this case to create a subfolder. with the name of the color tag blue, green, red. Okay, let's delete those and let's make another process recipe. And this time we're going to do color tag and we're going to combine it with the rating like so. So let's turn this one off. Let's define this one. We're going to do JPEG quick proof again, so it's nice and quick. And in this case, subfolder wise. Now before, if you remember, I pressed this button to get to all my different color tags. But when you start using, sorry, not color tags, all my different tokens. But as you get more comfortable with this and you know what your favorite tokens are called, you can simply just start typing here. So if I start typing color, I can then cursor down to color tag. And then the other one I wanted to find was rating, like so. Now we've got two tokens together. Now nothing interesting is going to happen until I do an extra step, which is in between them. If you can't see my cursor, it's just blinking here. In between them, we're going to put a /. And then what that tells Capture One to do is to first make this folder and then go down another level and then make this folder based on the rating. So again, we've selected all of these and then we're going to say process up here, and now you're going to see what's happened. So in the first instance, we get our color tag. Then if we go down to the next level, we get a folder that says 5, which indicates 5 stars. And then we get our images popping in there like so. So if we had images with other star rating, then you see it would populate 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 down here as well. Now, if 5 isn't very intuitive, don't forget, if you don't want to use tokens, you can actually just write text in here as well. So that will combine written text with the token. So if I just quickly delete those, whoops, quickly delete those and then run that process again, then you'll see what happens this time. So let's go to the first folder, see 5 stars. So we can combine tokens and written text if you want to give some kind of extra information to that. Okay, so that's the purpose of this little exercise was to introduce you to this, the /, which then drops down another level in the folder tree. For those of you on Windows, it's not a /, it's a /. So where is it on my Mac keyboard? It's over there. So on Windows, it's backwards. That doesn't, no disparaging against Windows, it's just what the system uses to create that different level. So if you use Windows, you're going to be used to doing that. If you use Mac, you're going to be used to doing that. Okay, so next one. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, blue, green, and red isn't very useful. I want to rename blue, green, and red into something more useful. Yes, there could be definitely a good case for renaming the color tokens, but then it means they're going to be renamed for the next session, and sometimes it might not be applicable. But there still could be a place for that, but there's another thing we can do called collection name. So let's make another process recipe. Call this collection name token. So let's turn this one off, define this one. I'm going to have my JPEG quick proof again. And now let's switch collections to, say, final fronts, for example. So it's all my final front shots. I'm going to empty out the output folder again, go back here, go to the File tab, and the token we're going to use now is called collection name. So a collection in Capture One is basically an album. It's a smart album. It could be a folder of images, anything which has a collection of images in it, for example. So now we've got collection name. So if I take these images, Command-Alt to select all of them, and then process, then you'll see an output. It's called final fronts. So let's move down to the next collection, final rears, select all, Command-D to process. Final fabric details, select all, Command-D to process, like so. So now we've got final fabric details, final fronts, and final rears, like so. So again, this token uses the collection name to create that folder. Make sense? Okay, let's do the next one. Now, you might be saying, hopefully, that, well, I had it nicely organized in my capture folder. I knew what each image was each outfit. And I'd really like to replicate the same in the output folder so that when I deliver these to the client, they can find outfit 1 and then all the various different shots for outfit 1. Definitely a very common and useful case. So let's make another recipe, and this one is going to be called, has a curious name, Session Subpath. And you never would have figured this out by yourself, I'm sure. Let's change this to JPEG Quick Proof, File tab, and this token we're going to use, as I said, is called Session Subpath, which you wouldn't have figured out yourself, unfortunately. But basically what it means is that wherever the image belongs, I'm going to recreate the folder path back to the capture folder. So I know, for example, image number 746 lives in a folder called outfit 1. So if the session subpath token is used, I'm going to recreate that and place it in the output folder. So let's do that. Which selection of images will I use? So let's go to all finals. So remember, these images come from a variety of different folders. We've got outfit 1, outfit 2, outfit 3, outfit 4, and outfit 5, all displayed in the same collection via the use of a smart album, sorry. So let's try that. We've got session subpath folder. Let's go to our output folder. And then let's say process. So Command D to process. Whoops, I duplicated that. Let's get rid of that. Command D, select all, Command D to process and capture 1. Let's have a look at our output folder. And now we can see outfit 1, outfit 2, outfit 3, and outfit 4, and outfit 5. Nice and easy. So if I hadn't used this very, very simple token, I would have had to go to my first collection, outfit 1, filter by green and 5-star, process those out, for example, then go to outfit this one, and then, go to 5 stars, process them out, go to outfit 2, filter to 5 stars, process them out. So I would have been doing 5 different process actions, changing the final destination each time by changing the folder, whereas simply one collection of images, one token, and then I automatically make those 5 folders, which are a duplicate of the capture folder, like so. Kent says, can the path be created in a catalog too? Yes, so all of this applies to catalogs as well. So that's no problem whatsoever. Session subpath, of course, won't work in a catalog because it's based on the actual session. If I use session subpath long, then we'd create the path all the way back to the session folder if that's more useful for you. But most people are pretty happy with session subpath as such. You're going to see one in a second, Kent, which probably is more useful for catalog. So hold that thought. Tracy says, what's the session subpath looking at? I'm not clear. Okay, so let's just delete the output folder again. I'll explain it once more. So in the capture folder, we've got these 5 folders. So if let's say we ask Capture One to process this single image out, it knows that 746.cr2 lives in a folder called outfit 1. I will recreate that path in the output folder, which is why when I select these images, which come from a variety of different folders, output 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I say capture 1, just simply process them out, and then we look in the output folder, we get exactly the same duplication as we do in the capture folder. So hope that makes sense now, Tracy. It's pretty simple. It's just that the name session subpath, you would never look at that token, and this is, a failing on our part or such, and think, oh, I know what that token does. I don't really know if there's any kind of name which would improve the intuitiveness of that. Probably not. So it's one of those things really that has to be shown. Okay, so now we've done session subpath. So let's delete those. Whoops, a bit Wacom happy today. Let's delete those, and we're going to combine that. Maybe you've guessed it. We're going to do session session subpath and the collection name, like so. So now in the subfolder, we're going to do session subpath, like so, / because I want to make another folder, and now we're going to use collection name, so I can just type ahead and use that token, like so. So let's go back and pick, say, all the final fronts, like so. Go back here, we're going to select all and process out, and now you'll see in outfit 1, we've got the final fronts, outfit 2, final fronts, outfit, where are you? Come on, outfit 3, final fronts, and so on. So what I can do now, I can just blast through, I can switch collection, final rears, select all, Command D, final fabric details, select all, Command D, and so on. And then now, if we go back to the output folder, we've got final fronts, final rears. Oh, they're on TIFFs, I forgot to change it to JPEG. That's why it's a bit slower. But you get the idea. And then Capture One will build that structure for you nicely. Okay, subname we come back to. Harold was asking, what does subname do? I'll mention that at the end. Remind me if I forget. Okay. Chris has a long question. Hang on. Okay, you want to have their output go into different folders. What's this? Okay, I will hold that thought, Chris. That's going to be the second to last exercise. If you're wondering what Chris is asking, I think, Chris, what you're asking is basically how do I set process recipes to go to 2 different locations? Correct. Just if that's what you're asking, I think that's what it is, and that's going to be our second to last exercise. So we can see now that that process is finished. We've got outfit 1 to 5 with a separate folder of all those various different images like so. Pretty nifty. Okay, but the only thing that you might be saying, I'm just going to change this to JPEG Quick Proof so the next one is quicker, is that that's fine. We've made folders, but my naming isn't super intuitive because I don't know what, if I just look at this image alone, unless I look at the image, if we're not looking at the preview, I don't know if this is a front shot, a rear shot, or a fabric detail. I'd actually have to physically open it. So how can we improve that? So let's delete those and try again. So what we do now is that we come to the naming convention side of things. So now in output naming, I haven't done anything fancy. All I've done is use image name, which is the name of the raw file itself. So we haven't done anything to change there. But what we can do with naming is that we can also add a token as well. So let's do a collection name here as well. And in between it, I'm just going to put a little underscore just so it's easier to see. And now we're going to go back to my first collection. So final fronts, select all, process, final rears, process, final fabric details, select all, process. Now if we look at outfit 1, we've got final fronts and it's appended down here. Whoops, come on cursor. Down here you can see it's appended like so. So if I grab any of these folders and any of the subfolders, then you see we've got the actual collection in the file name itself as well. So if somebody comes along and jumbles all of this up, I still know that this is final rears. So that helps us a huge amount as well. Richard said, could you run more than one recipe at a time? Yes, that's our last exercise. So Chris's was second to last. Richard, yours is the last. Okay, but what we can also add is that not only can tokens look at things, what we've seen so far, is that we can also look at some metadata terms. So if you don't want to use the collection, then if I just go back to all the final shots, for example, look at the metadata tool, and you'll see as I scroll through these, whoops, didn't want to double click. As I scroll through these, you'll see in the description category, I've added front shot, fabric detail, rear shot, like so. And that's pretty easy to do on a batch as well. And I'll show you how you can edit metadata on a batch in case that's useful. So let's go to all the front shots, for example. And the way to add the metadata is really, let's just change the category let's do an example here. So category, I'm just going to say this category is e-commerce, like so. Now that's only added that to the first image, like so. Whoops. So that's only added that to the first image, but I wanted to get it to all of these 81 images. So very simple. In any Capture One tool, you'll see this little up down arrow. So I check that. Now before I click apply, I want to make sure that the only thing I'm going to copy over is this single category, because I don't want to copy over my color tag, because then that's going to change the color tag on other images. I don't want to change the description and so on. So I want to turn everything off except for, where are you, category, like so. So now if I say apply, then you'll see on each shot, whoops, it didn't work. Category e-commerce. Let's try that again. Copy, turn everything off. Oh, because it helps if you actually select everything. Select all, copy, turn everything off, and then just select category. Where are you? And say apply. And then now if we look at this image, you'll see that it's applied that like so. So it's easy to do a batch edit like that. Just remember, after you hit the copy button, turn off stuff that you don't want to be affected. Because, for example, if I went to my all images collection, this has different color tags, different star ratings. So let's go to the first one again. And we want to get e-commerce everywhere else, but I don't want to change the color tags here. I can select all, press the up down button, turn everything off, find my correct term, say category, and say apply. And then now if we look at this guy, you see it has e-commerce applied, but I've got my blue tag and my 5-star rating, which wasn't copied across. So that's just worth knowing if you do want to do that. So where were we? We were going to use in our, let's go to all finals. And we're going to change our naming convention down here. Instead of using collection name, we're going to use description, which is our metadata field, like so. So now what we can do here is also select all, like so. And let's just clear my output folder. Don't know why my Wacom is super sensitive today. And we're going to say select all and process. So now we've got outfit 1 in the naming convention, all finals. And you see we got front shot, details, rear shot, like so. Outfit 2, all finals, front shot, rear shot, fabric details. Outfit 3, front shot, details, like so. So if you're diligent with your metadata in that respect, and you saw that it's really fast to update it on a batch, then if you're doing some kind of shoot like this, or even you could use metadata for the headshot person's name or the look or all kinds of stuff really, then that can be very useful in naming convention as well. So I discovered this kind of little obscure token yesterday. So let's go to front shot. Nope, sorry, final fronts, and talk about this. So let's get rid of our naming convention here. So it could be that you really want to get away from those raw names. So it's just could be just the number that the camera generates. It's not useful to anyone. It's not particularly intuitive. So I came up with this sort of option yesterday. We've got this token called image folder name. If I can find it, image folder name. So this is the name of the folder that the image sits in. So it's either going to be outfit 1, outfit 2, outfit 3, and so on. And then we've got our destination folder name. Okay, and this is the naming convention that we're using. So destination folder. Now the destination folder is going to be the name of the collection. So bear with me on this one, and then you'll see what happens. Okay, so let's clear our output like so, and we're in, where are we? We're in all the final fronts. So let's say select all, Command D to process, and then we've got outfit 1, final fronts, outfit 1, final fronts, and then we've got outfit 2, outfit 2, final fronts, outfit 3, outfit 3, final ones. So now I can blast through my collections again, final rears, select all, process, final fabric details, select all, process, and then if we just pick a random outfit, so we've got outfit 1, final fabric details, final fronts, final rears, and then the name of that file actually says this is output 1 and it's our final fabric details, like so. So that's kind of two tokens working together. So if we recap what's happening, we're using our session subpath. So we're going to duplicate what's going on in the capture folder in the output folder, and then we're going to use the collection name as the next folder. So that's going to be our destination folder, and we're going to rename it with the name of the folder where it came from, which is outfit 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and then I'll just expand this out, and we're going to use the name. We're going to rename the image itself with the second part is the destination folder name, which is based on the collection name. So get it? But you can see that it works really nicely. That you've got the naming convention is super good, like so. So we've made 3 folders in 5 collections. So that's 15 folders automatically. So imagine trying to do that manually. That would take you a long time. Could you have a number there? Carl says, yeah, sure. We can just have a basic counter, like so. Oops, did that show up? Yeah, so you can have a counter. I could change that to 4 digits like so, and then we could easily pop in a counter as well. If you want to reset that counter, you see it's at 0011 for some reason. Say reset output counter, and we're now back to 1 like so. Again, if you want to put something in between that, then we could just put little underscore in just to do it up like so, because it could be, Carl, as you might rightly assume, that we might have more than one fabric detail per output. We might have, if the outfit's made with different fabrics, then like this one we could have a feathery bit and the back and so on. Then we would have final fabric details outfit 1 final fabric details 001, 002, 003. So yes, you could have a number there. Good thought. You can use the digit counter token in all over places as well. So on the subfolder, if it doesn't exist, it makes it. If it does exist, it uses it. Yes, Richard, that's a good way to summarize that. So in this case, when we ran through the different collections, in theory, we've asked Capture One to create the outfit 1 folder 3 times, but it already exists, so it doesn't overwrite it or make it outfit 1A or 1B or whatever. So yes. Is there a way to rename to shorten for client identification ease but preserve the original name? Yeah, then we would just throw in here, let's just get rid of 4 digit. We would just put in image name here, like so. So then now you see we've still got the, let's just put an underscore there, and let's delete that. And then do the same. So if we select all and process, then we've got final fabric details, and we've still got our raw name here if you like, but we've got the easy client identification here as well. So if they say, oh, I really love this shot, but you need to retouch some stuff here, then you know, oh, okay, it's number 760. I can refer back to it. Like so. Can we use the image number provided by the camera? Maybe that's the same question Frank was asking Ken, but that is image name, which will be however the camera has generated it. I mean, in this case, they've been renamed at some point, but otherwise, its image name is how it will look from the camera. Okay, so before we get to Richard and his multiple recipes, we're going to look at Chris's different destinations for different process recipes. Now, my hunch, Chris, is that in output location, there's also a subfolder option. So I could be thinking that maybe you're editing the subfolder option here, which we come to, instead of the file tab itself. So what you can do, just to make sure you haven't got any weird legacy stuff going on, is go into your process recipe and say reset tool, and then go into your output location and say reset tool, and then everything will be back at default as such. Just going to reset my naming convention. So do that first of all, reset the output location, because sometimes it might be referring to an old session or something's got messed up, and then reset this one as well. So what I'm going to do is let's make a new folder, and we're going to call this client Dropbox. So our client on this e-commerce shoot wants to see all the images, and they want to do their own culling, rating, and selections, and so on. So if we go to the basic tab, let's change this to JPEG Quick Proof. Let's look at all images. So that's 108 images of every single thing. Tell you what, let's do it this way. Let's do it like this. So in the file tab, we're going to edit it here. So because by default it says output location, Capture One says, okay, you want me to look at output location. Okay, you want me to go to the output folder, zoom over here. But now we're going to change this and we're going to select a folder over here. So I'm going to say select folder. We're going to go to my Dropbox, which I've set up, and I've already created a folder which is shared with my imaginary client, and I'm going to choose that. And then in the subfolder, I'm going to use collection name, like so. So now nothing is going to be used here because the root folder is David's client. So now I can go here and then I can say select all. Did I change this to JPEG? Yes. So now I can say, okay, front shots, select all. So let's process those. That's 81 images. Rear shots, let's select all, process those. And then fabric details, let's select all and process those. So now if we go to my Dropbox, like so, we can see David's client, we've got all our front shots, and then once those are done, that was 80 odd images, so it's relatively quick, but bear with me. But we're going to end up with the front shot, the rear shot, and the fabric details, and that's going to be syncing to our client's Dropbox quite nicely. They're going to get an email notification or push notification if they have it set up that somebody has delivered something to their Dropbox, and then it can go along with the next step of the way. So when this finishes, maybe I shouldn't have done all 80 images, but you see it's pretty quick. By the way, if you made a processing error, go to the last tool tab, and this basically shows you everything which is queued up ready for processing. So if you'd sent a gazillion images to process and you needed to stop it because you didn't mean to, you can just hit the stop button down here, and then you can select everything in the queue and clear it out as well. Excuse me. You'll also see that we've got 50-ish seconds remaining to process the rest of those images, like so. So loads of different shots there. We must be getting to rear shots soon. I can see that must be a rear shot. So very soon you're going to see, whoops, that next folder pop up. There's rear shot going in. And then once that's done, we're going to see our fabric details as well. Now, nice little trick for you. So let's say I'm now the client. I'm going to make a new folder in the same Dropbox, and I'm going to call this my selects, like so. And Todd, I think you just asked the question. If it's not too off topic, can you show how you would input a client's list of selected file numbers? Yes, that's exactly what we're going to do now. So I've just made this folder called My Select. So I'm going to go here. Okay, I'm the client. Well, I want all of these because you're a bad photographer. You only gave me one choice. So I'm going to move them in there. Then out of the front shots, let's just move a few random images in here. I'm not looking at these, but I'm just going to pretend we've carefully looked at these and decided what's what. And then out of the rear shots, I want this one, I want this one, and let's grab that one, and that one, and that one. And so my client has decreed these are all the final images I want you to process out as final TIFFs. So, or JPEGs or whatever the specification would be. So very simple. Same works on Windows as well. Select all. Command C to copy. So edit, copy. So if we're using shortcuts, select all, Command C to copy. Go back to Capture One. we can go to our all images smart album or all finals, like, sorry, all images. So that's 108 images. Somewhere in there is my client's 14 selects. So how are you going to pull them out? Are you going to say, okay, number 747 is the first one. Number 747, okay, it's, where is it? Oh, there it is, like so. Okay, what's the next one? Number 758. Okay, I'm going to remember to, oh, damn, I deselected it. Oh, okay, 747, what was it? 758. Let's go back and, okay, it's, there it is. Right, what was the next? No, that's a really painful way to do that. So instead, what we're going to do is go to Edit, Select by, File Name List, Paste. So Edit, Paste, Command V. That pastes all my file names in there. I'm telling Capture One that there's a new file name on each line, but it could be by comma, semicolon, or space if Excel was involved and they'd exported a comma separated values or whatever. And I'm also going to say ignore file extension because these are JPEG file names, but these are CR2s. So Capture One's going to ignore .jpg and just look at the file name. Now, if I say, okay, we've got 14 selected of 108 images. Now, before I do anything else, I'll just find one that's selected, right click on it and say create albums from selection. Call this client final selects. Say select collection after creation and add the selected images after I create this collection. Say OK, boom, there's our selection. So I didn't have to use the search bar, didn't really have to do anything complicated, just say edit, select by, file name list, and copy those in, say OK, and then it's selected. So easy peasy. If you haven't found select by file name list, then there it is, because it could potentially save you hours and hours of time. This is only 14 images, but it could have been 250 out of 1,000. And finding 14 in a list, maybe not so bad. Finding 250 is a bit more of a challenge. So Chris, I hope that answers your question. And we're going to look at two process recipes together in a minute, Richard. But Chris, I think it's just important to remember that root folder is what you must change to send process recipes to different locations. If it's on output location, then everything is going to look at what's going on here and everything will end up at the same place. So it's important that you change it in the process recipe itself in the File tab, like so. Okay, so the last thing is to do multiple process recipes. So let's do, what should we do? What should we do? Let's say we want to have a JPEG sRGB quick proof. Oh, we saw a little subname up there as well. We want to have a JPEG sRGB quick proof. And we also want to have, because we can use that for layup with our designer or whatever. And then we also want to have a full size TIFF, like so, because that's going to go out to retouch. But in the meantime, the designers can use this basic JPEGs for laying up, then they can drop in the high res when they're done from the retoucher. Each of these recipes has a collection name, like so, collection name, but we're running two recipes at the same time. It could be 10 recipes at the same time. Okay, I'm going to pick all the finals. So this was a front, rear, and fabric from each outfit. And then what we're going to do is clear our output folder out and see what happens. So we've got two process recipes going. We've got image name as our output naming, and let's see what happens when we start processing. So let's select all, Command D, and then we're going to improve on it. So we've got all finals, because that's all we had for our collection name, and then we've basically ended up with JPEGs and TIFFs together. So this then becomes an issue because it's not quite so easy to divide up so these to the retoucher and these to the designer for layout, for example. So that's not really a super efficient way of doing it. It doesn't work so nicely. So let's try and improve on that a little bit, okay? So what's the first thing we're going to do? Let's have a think. I'm just going to let's clear our queue. So oh, it's nearly finished. Well, let's say stop, select all. Well, we just delete that one and then we can start our queue again when we need to. So let's improve on that because that's not super efficient. So we've got each of our process recipe with the collection name. And then in our output location, now remember, we're not in the process recipe, so each process recipe just has a collection name. But let's set something in the output location, which is going to be our start point. So let's say, OK, Capture One, sort the images based on their recipe name, like so. So now we're going to end up with a folder called full size TIFF and one called JPEG sRGB, for example. So that's going to help us. So let's go through the different collections. So let's say final fronts, select all, process, final rears, select all, process, final fabric details, select all, process, like so. So now we've got a name of a folder with the recipe name, final fronts, with all our TIFFs, JPEGs, final fronts with all our JPEGs. When the processing catches up, you're going to see another folder drop in with final rears, like so. We've got that'll pop up final rears, like so. And then when that's completed, we're going to have our fabric details as well. So again, we can improve on that. Just thinking about the naming, how many have we got to go? Let's stop our queue, select all, backspace, that deletes them. Remember to start your queue again, then you won't get shouted at by Capture One. But we can improve on that because once again, if we look at the naming convention, all we've got is a name. So we've got 748 JPEG, and then in here we've got 748 TIFF. You could get confused with that. So let's be really specific and add in the naming convention also the recipe name, like so. So now we know exactly what that image is. So let's just do the fabric details and say select all, process, full size TIFF, final fabric details. There we go, full size TIFF 8-bit like so. JPEG sRGB, final fabric details, JPEG sRGB quick proof. So we know exactly, okay, this one's got to go to the designer, the other one's got to go to retouch. But what we can essentially do is just grab this entire folder, Dropbox that over to our designer, and then this one we can send over to retouch, for example. What about multiple recipes to completely different locations? Easy, because all you need to do, that was Richard asking that, in the File tab, this is where you specify the location. So every single one of these recipes could have a totally different location. All you need to do is define it in the root folder. Go back and watch the video with the Dropbox example and you'll see exactly what I mean. Okay, the final finale. Let's clear my output folder. Whoops. Clear that out. And then also in the output location, let's do session subpath, which you know very well by now. And let's do the same. So now, if we go to all finals, so that's all the final shots, we want them as JPEG and TIFF. We want them sorted into what outfit they came from. And also we want the recipe name in there, and let's also put in, that's fine, the recipe name like so. Could we also do the collection name? Is that going to work? Yeah, let's try. It's going to be a very long file name, but let's try it. Collection name. No, it's not going to work. We'd have to do it separately. Let's not worry about that. So recipe name, session subpath, image name, recipe name, and we've got both our two folders like so going with the collection name. So let's actually, oh, it could work. Let's do it. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Collection name as well. So let's go to final fronts. Select all, process, final rears, select all, process, final fabric details, select all, process. And now we've got our full size TIFFs. We can see outfit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, final fronts with the image naming like so, outfit 2 with the image naming like so as well. Pretty cool, huh? So how many folders have we made? We've got 2 here, we've got 5 folders in each one, and then we're going to have 3 folders in each of those subfolders. So that's 3 times 5 is 15, plus another 15 here, plus those 2. So that's 32 32 folders that we've made automatically, just by triggering 3 different collection processes like so. So now all I could do was just grab that, send that to my designer layout. They know which one is outfit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They know which one is the fabric, the front and the rear. And if they really screw up, they can still see from the file name, for example, which one is, if we open that guy up, they still know that this is fabric details, for example. So loads of stuff we can do. Oh, Kent said, what about using the subname on the file tab? Subname basically just adds, let's just show you an example. So say if we wanted to add copyright notice to the file name too. If we look in one of these images, we see that copyright, I think I set that up, it says copyright LBD, little black dress. So you'll see if in the subname I use copyright notice like so, then we could also ask, let's just reduce this down a bit smaller. We could also say if I use the subname token here, this will be fun to wrap your head around, then it'll pull it from that. So the subname here we've said, hey Capture One, use the copyright notice. And then in output naming, we've said, hey Capture One, use what's in the subname field, which is the copyright notice, which is LBD here, like so. So that's like a double token use. That's high level stuff, Ken, for example. But that's how you can use subname. Also, you don't have to use a token here. If I just wanted to type some text, then you see subname picks it up and adds that to the naming convention. So that's good just for appending anything really that you want to say about this particular process recipe. Like we could put in here recipe name, like so, and then we ask subname to pick that up and it adds it like so. So that's a different way you could do that. So if in your process recipe you always say subname is recipe name and your output naming has subname token in it, then that's going to add that as part of the naming convention as well. So I hope, Kent, you can think about having use for that. Bear in mind all these different things we've set up, you can always save it as a preset. So the naming formats, if you want, I have a bunch of naming formats saved. So if we click on that, we can say save user preset, like so. If you want to save the subfolder presets, we can say save user preset, and so on. So hopefully that answers your question. Let's see, Richard is asking, what about watermarks? I meant to show you that for Dropbox actually. Let's go back to all images, for example, and let's just refine our client Dropbox recipe. So if we go to watermark, let's just open one up a bit bigger so we can see what's happening. And then under watermark, because our client is a bit dim and they need lots of help, we're going to place some text on the image itself. And the text we can either just type or we can use tokens here as well. So I would like to use the image name like so. Now it's huge, it's a bit too big, so let's change our font down to something a bit smaller. Let's change the color to, let's just go black. Maybe that's a bit small, do that. And then we can grab our hand tool here and just pick up the name and just move it somewhere useful and increase the opacity. So that's dynamic because we're using a token for the image name. So if I go to the next image, you see the file name changes as well. And because we want to make sure we don't get ripped off, we're going to add our copyright notice token as well. And then that will add the copyright as well. And if we wanted to, we could always add the description like so. Whoops. So front shot, for example. And pop that up there. And now as we go through, see that's all the front shots. If we switch collections to something else, say fabric details, helps if we have an image up. Then in this case, it might be better if we had white text, for example, but you see now that says fabric details. So we can use our tokens for watermarking as well. Let's just change that to text. Let's go to white in this case. So now we can see that says fabric details quite nicely. Probably ideally what we want to do, instead of white and black, let's just change it to, let's go, whoops, where are we? There's one on blue. Then we should be able to see it on everything like so. So now if we go to our all images or all finals, for example. Now let's do all images for Dropbox. Then we can see the watermark pops up on anything. If we look at fabric details, you see it says fabric details. If we look at a rear shot, whoops, you see it says it's a rear shot and so on. So very easy to use tokens for watermarking in that respect as well. Someone asked this morning, well, does it matter if you have landscape or portrait? No, let's just rotate one. Adjustments, rotate right. So if we look at these two guys together, then you see it scales quite nicely. So if I wanted to center it horizontal, like so, you see centered, it centers up quite nicely. If we do vertical, then you see it just scales whether it's horizontal or landscape or portrait, sorry. So very useful for that as well. Could you set up a recipe to email? I don't think so, but what you could do, if you are on Mac, if you go to your Finder, say go, hold your Option key down, and then that shows you the library tool. Go to Application Support, Capture One, and you'll see if we go to Recipes, there's all the different recipes that we made today, like so, as you can see. So if you wanted to send that to someone, you could do quite easily as well. If you're on PC, it's on the user data folder. So C drive, user data. Oh, sorry, I'll start again. C drive, user, app data, capture one. So it's exactly the same principle on Windows as well. It's actually not a bad idea to sort of take a copy of the Capture One folder if you want to duplicate any of that stuff onto your various other computers that you might have as well. So subfolders for recipes. Oh, that was Richard was asking. Yeah, a couple of people asked if you can create folders here to organize your recipes. You can't, but that's actually not really a bad idea, because you could get to a situation where your recipe list is quite long, but you can't currently, I'm afraid. But that's a good idea. Alrighty, sorry we overran on time a little bit, but it's one of those subjects which you can really seek good benefit from. If you want to join me next week, that's June 22nd, complete black and white adjustment. So if you're into black and white, come along and watch that. You'll get a follow-up email sometime tomorrow, which details where you can see the recording and some other resources and forthcoming webinars as well. So look out in your inbox tomorrow for that follow-up. Many thanks for your time today, and I hope to see you all in the future. Take care.